Gong Show won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
The French Connection.
French Connection.
Yeah.
French dressing. French bread.
French fries.
French fries.
Yeah, the French Connection.
Oh, baby. What a great way. It's our Gene Hackmonth.
Oh, so excited about Gene Hackmonth.
Celebrating one of our absolute favorite actors of all time, Gene Hackman.
Oh, he's so good.
And we wanted to start with his first real starring role as Popeye Doyle.
Yeah, Popeye Doyle, The French Connection. I love this movie so much.
Yeah. When he eats that spinach and he gets all like strong and beats up Bluto.
Yeah, it's
that's
cool.
Crazy. I didn't know Bluto was French.
Yeah, it's sad that they, within 10 years, remade it with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make any sense.
Wasn't as good.
No,
wasn't as
definitely
gritty.
Hackman was a better Popeye Doyle. Popeye.
He was.
Yeah.
I
I hadn't seen this movie in a long time. I was super excited watching it. Did not really. It is timeless, although granted, obviously, it's very 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
But the storytelling and so many movies have aped this style since then.
Well, we were talking about it. I think this was the first American cinema verite, which, we'll talk about how he came from documentary filmmaking.
Yeah, which certainly helps, yeah.
And it was such a brilliant choice. Nothing lends itself more to this kind of filmmaking than like a police procedural. This movie moves, man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't move like an action movie or whatever, but the story, it's smart. It doesn't hold the audience's hand.
No.
The story's unfolding here and in France, and it comes together.
You got to really pay attention to this movie to understand what's going on. It does not give you anything. You got to work for all of it, and it's awesome.
And it's not very PC in terms of the time.
No.
But that's just, that was because it was based on real people, a real situation. Yep. It was gritty, it was real, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a product of its time.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
well,
and again, like you said, it completely started a whole new way of filmmaking.
Yeah, totally. There's so many people, so many movies you would not know if it wasn't for Friedkin and The French Connection.
Carbuncle shot like that.
Yeah.
The movie that T. Arthur Kahneman and I did over 5 years.
It was actually a really good blueprint for how to shoot a movie very quickly with not a lot of money.
Right.
And make it good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the first kind of studio guerrilla down and dirty filmmaking experiences. They didn't have permits. They didn't have any.
No. The fact that they got away with what they did is amazing.
It is amazing. Well, let's get into it.
Take yourself back to 1971.
Yeah.
May 1st, anti-war militants attempt to disrupt government business in Washington, D.C. Police and military units arrest as many as 12,000 people, most of whom are later released.
Oh, man. Protests back then, they did not coddle protesters. They would bring in the National Guard and the Army, and they would beat them senseless and arrest them all. It was so brave to be a protester back then. I mean, you were literally putting your life on the line.
This was just before they started bringing in scoops to scoop up the protesters.
Get the scoops!
They're bringing in the scoops!
Here come the scoops! Watch our Soylent Green episode for that reference.
August 20th, Camden, New Jersey erupts in race riots with looting and arson following the beating death of a Puerto Rican motorist by city police.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm glad so much has changed, and nothing like that ever happens.
September 9th, a revolt breaks out at the maximum security prison in Attica, New York. It lasts for 4 days, and in the end, state police and the United States National Guard storm the facility. 42 are killed, 10 of them being hostages.
Attica!
Yeah.
Attica!
October 7th, The French Connection is released in theaters.
Yeah. A nice relaxing movie to calm everybody the F down. Man, the music in that movie is so tense.
Jarring?
It is not like the soundtrack is the most anxiety-inducing.
Yeah.
Just from the beginning, where it's like this crazy acid jazz.
I know.
I love it.
It's great.
And
it's great.
Completely adds to the anxiety that you feel throughout this entire film. I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but you know what I mean. It's just so tense.
Yeah, the intensity. Yeah.
And the music just kind of pops in. It's used very sparingly.
Yeah, not very much of it in the movie.
And you don't need it.
So the movie starts with the 1969 novel The French Connection, a true account of cops, narcotics, and international conspiracy by Robin Moore.
Nice. James Bond.
Yeah. Robin Moore served as a nose gunner during World War II, winning the Air Medal Award. Upon return, he attended Harvard, worked in TV production, and worked for a while with the Sheraton Hotel Company, which his father co-founded.
Good Lord, man. Being a gunner on a ship, on a plane.
On a plane, yeah.
Especially the undergunner.
They had a very high mortality rate.
Well, you're also, there's no hatch. Getting up into the plane. You get in from underneath the plane and are kind of bolted in.
You're stuck in there until
you there
land.
Until either you get blown up or you land. It's so claustrophobic.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No, can't do it.
Heroes.
It's funny because I was like, oh, Robin Moore, his father was rich, and he's just this rich kid that was able to do all this stuff. But he literally was a gunner, a nose gunner in World War II, and then later, essentially becomes a special forces soldier. But his dad did own the Sheraton Hotel Company, so take that for what it's worth. While working in the hotel business in the Caribbean, he recorded the early days of Fidel Castro in the nonfiction book The Devil to Pay. Due to connections with Harvard classmate Robert F. Kennedy, Moore was allowed access to the U.S. Army Special Forces to write about this elite unit of the United States Army.
You should go, write about the Army.
So not only was his dad the co-founder of the Sheraton Hotel Company, he was friends with Robert F. Kennedy.
You're my friend, and you can do whatever you want.
There are some people that just were born to be successful.
Yes. Well, it's the Forrest Gumping of a life where you just kind of get those. But look, it's what you do with the opportunities that counts.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, is that at least he was like, hey, I'm going to go do this stuff that can help change the world rather than just spend money and be annoying.
Instead of buying a bunch of companies and saying you invented a bunch of stuff with your dad's apartheid money. Yeah, you actually did something with your life.
Yeah,
interesting.
Exactly. General William P. Yarborough insisted that Moore go through special forces training to better understand
what makes special forces soldiers special.
Nice. He trained for nearly a year, first at jump school for airborne training before completing the Special Forces Qualification Course, also known as the Q Course, becoming the first civilian to participate in such an intensive program.
That's crazy. And it's also crazy that he made it through it.
Exactly. Because it's wow, you could have done this.
Well, but it also just, they're special.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy course.
They have extremely high standards.
Oh, yeah.
Afterwards, Moore was assigned to the 5th Special Forces Group on deployment to South Vietnam. His experiences in-country formed the basis for the 1966 novel The Green Berets, a bestseller that helped secure him international acclaim.
The Green Berets.
But Moore co-authored the lyrics for The Ballad of the Green Berets, which was one of the major hit songs of 1966.
Oh, the Green Berets. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, it's really catchy.
Yeah. Well, it's a hit today, too. I think Green Day did a cover of it on one of their albums.
The Ballad of the Green Days?
Green Beret Days.
Green Beret Days, yeah. The song was featured in the 1968 film The Green Berets, based on Moore's book, which starred and was co-directed by John Wayne.
It has the distinction of being the only pro-Vietnam movie ever made. Seriously. And it was made before,
Oh, John Wayne.
Yeah. I was trying to get ahead of the whole hullabaloo. I figured if I made a movie in '66, we could get all the patriots on board. But unfortunately, it was an awful war.
John Wayne. Yeah. The Conqueror. You should check it out.
Don't check it out. Unless you want to see the movie that murdered a bunch of people with cancer.
The French Connection novel is based on the true-life French Connection, a scheme through which heroin was smuggled from Indochina through Turkey to France and then to the United States and Canada, sometimes through Cuba.
Lord.
Moving that heroin. Well, gee, they're just like, oh no, we're just going to throw it on a plane and take it straight there. I mean, it had to be, sifted. That's one of the greatest scenes in this movie was when they were tearing apart the car.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, it's not there, man. That scene went on and on and on. It's like, it's not there.
Well, because they wanted to show how absolutely frustrating it was.
Yeah.
And thank goodness for Smarty Smart's old Roy Scheider.
Yeah,
looking at the weight differential.
And the weight differential and getting the baseboard.
God, I love him so much, Roy Scheider. So you know who else is a great man?
Gene Hackman?
Yes.
So the operation started in the 1930s, reached its peak in the 60s, and was finally dismantled in the 70s.
Wow, that's a long time.
It went for quite a while. It was responsible for providing the vast majority of the heroin used in the United States at the time.
Party!
Yeah. Kind of like the one guy in the late 60s here in California who provided like 98% of all the LSD in the world.
Well, yeah, but that's a little bit different.
I know.
Because you can make that
Yeah,
And
I
then,
know. But literally, it was one guy. Anyway.
Well, it's tough to make acid.
He knew. He knew when he was doing it.
That'd be a neat recipe. I'd like to see that TikTok video. Anyway.
All right. Producer Philip D'Antoni bought the film rights to Robin Moore's book. D'Antoni started his career in TV, producing specials Sophia Loren in Rome, Elizabeth Taylor in London, and Melina Mercouri in Greece.
I see a little bit of a pattern there.
See that pattern? Yeah.
Beautiful women in different places.
They were all TV specials doing things, singing, I guess.
No,
No,
I
because
don't
Sophia
think so.
Loren was not a singer.
Neither was Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, no, you're right. I don't know.
It was probably
They're
just them being
standing
pretty.
around doing stuff. Hey,
at
look,
the
I'm in
new
London.
Frigidaire.
Yeah. In 1968, he produced Bullet, the neo-noir cop thriller starring Steve McQueen.
Oh, such a great movie.
I have not seen that movie in a long time. I need to see it again.
I just watched it like a year or two ago.
Oh, really?
God, man. Steve McQueen was just one of the most charming,
Yeah.
amazing actors. Just so low-key and
good.
just so awesome.
Bullet has one of the most famous car chases in film history.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of the first to do the full-on car chase.
And that, there's like half of the movie is that car chase.
Yeah. D'Antoni brought the film to National General Pictures, a company that owned movie theaters as well as foraying into producing them, but they eventually dropped the film. D'Antoni originally approached Michael Winner to direct the film.
Because he's a winner.
He was. He would go on to eventually direct Death Wish and two of its sequels.
Yeah, Pelly.
The first one was really good.
Yes, it was.
They went a little downhill after
They killed
that.
my daughter and my wife, Pelly. So I shot them all. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Winner turned down the project for The French Connection. D'Antoni turned to William Friedkin, who had directed for TV, including one of the last episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1965.
They'd always be like, get freaking Friedkin, man.
Hitchcock actually chastised him for not directing in a tie.
All right.
You don't have ties. God's rich.
Well, you have a lot of gravy on your tie, pal.
Well, wow. All right. He wasn't fat. He was just big boned.
Really?
Yeah. It was Hitchcock, his whole thing, because Sam Raimi does the same thing. But his whole thing was that was how people knew he was the director, because he was the one in a tie.
Okay. Well, maybe William Friedkin wore a feather in his ass.
You can see how well that kept going, because literally almost no one does it now.
Right. Well, also, you're Alfred freaking Hitchcock, man. Nobody's going to mistake you for a PA.
Well, no, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, could you give me some coffee, Chubbs?
Oh, wow.
I'm the director.
By 1970, Friedkin had only directed a handful of fiction pictures. His first feature was in 1965, called Good Times, starring Sonny and Cher. Friedkin claims the movie is entirely unwatchable.
God, I don't know. I used to love Sonny and Cher, but yeah, man. No thanks.
No, absolutely not. I could not do it. In 1968, he directed two films, The Birthday Party, starring Robert Shaw, written by Harold Pinter, adapted from his play.
It is not a happy birthday party. Just going in, you should know that.
He also directed The Night They Raided Minsky's, a musical comedy written and produced by Norman Lear.
That's good, actually. That's really good. Norman Lear is a genius. Absolute genius.
And in 1970, he directed The Boys in the Band, one of the first films to focus on gay characters, and is reportedly the first use of the word cunt in a feature film.
Yikes. Spoiler alert, that's a bad word. It was really risky of him to direct that movie.
Yeah.
Anything quote unquote gay back then could ruin your career.
So Friedkin also directed a number of documentaries. In 1962, he directed The People versus Paul Crump for Chicago Television. The doc was highly praised and led to Friedkin working with documentary producer David Wolper, as well as getting Friedkin the Alfred Hitchcock Presents job.
Nice.
Wolper was nominated for an Academy Award for his 1959 documentary The Race for Space.
The race for space.
Friedkin would direct three docs for Wolper, two in 1965, The Bold Men, about men who are courageous enough to risk their lives undertaking challenges, sports-related and not, that are at the limit of human capabilities.
Macho film.
And also one called Mayhem on a Sunday Afternoon about pro football.
Yeah, baby. Macho man.
And The Thin Blue Line in 1966, focusing on the police force, which had an influence on how Friedkin made The French Connection.
Not to be confused with Errol Morris's The Thin Blue Line,
No.
which is one of the greatest documentaries ever made.
Yes. While he was filming The Boys in the Band in 1970, Friedkin began a relationship with Kitty Hawks, daughter of director Howard Hawks. Howard Hawks would be an influence on Friedkin's decision to direct The French Connection. Friedkin asked Hawks what he thought of his movies, to which Hawks bluntly replied that they were
lousy.
Ouch. Instead, Hawks recommended that he
make a good chase. Make one better than anyone else has done.
Friedkin would also be influenced by the 1969 movie Z, directed by Costa Gavras, which won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. Z was shot in a documentary style.
Yeah.
Friedkin said,
"After I saw Z, I realized how I could shoot the French Connection. Because he shot Z like a documentary. It was a fiction film, but it was made like it was actually happening, like the camera didn't know what was going to happen next. And that is an induced technique. It looks like he happened upon the scene and captured what was going on as you would do in a documentary. My first films were documentaries, too. So I understood what he was doing, but I never thought you could do that in a feature at the time until I saw Z."
influence, huge influence.
Yeah.
Friedkin would take this aesthetic to the extreme.
Extreme!
He didn't storyboard anything for the French Connection.
That is insane. That is insane, especially since you're doing guerrilla-style filmmaking.
Yes. He and the cinematographer would show up at their shoot location and loosely plan out shots. They wouldn't then explain the setups to the camera operator and told him to
just keep up.
Which is,
okay.
That poor camera operator's like,
you know this camera's 55 pounds, right?
Sure. Fox execs were reluctant to hire Friedkin as he had very little experience with this type of movie, but D'Antoni pointed to Peter Yates, who directed Bullet, who had no prior experience shooting that type of movie, and turned it into a blockbuster.
Hey guys, yeah, my dad worked on this, and when they said that, he said, "Well, just get Yates, no brainer, right?"
Yeah.
And then he forgot to pick me up at camp for like 3 weeks. I'm sad.
So you don't know how that turned out, did you?
No, all I know is they made the movie.
Oh yeah.
They didn't. My dad left because it wasn't racist enough.
Did he go out to go get some cigarettes?
You know. Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah, he came back once because he forgot his briefcase. Anyway.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Oh man, my kids. Have you seen them?
I'm pretty sure they're in your hot car that has all the windows rolled up.
Well, the windows don't go down. They're bulletproof.
Oh, God, it must be because people want to murder you.
All the time.
All the time.
Every day.
Yep.
Every day.
All right, well, thanks.
Goodbye.
After the deal with National General Pictures fell through, Friedkin was offhandedly told by Fox executive Daryl F. Zanuck that they had an extra $2 million he could use to make the movie if he could make it for that.
Sweet.
Okay,
cool.
Just like,
we're
hey,
just flying around.
Hey, man, we're just having a drink. I got $2 million. You want to make a movie?
We went through all the couch cushions in the green rooms and found $2 million.
Zanuck also warned Friedkin that if done badly, he'd end up with another episode of the TV series Naked City, a New York City set cop show from the late 50s. Friedkin said later this inspired him to make the Popeye Doyle character a combination of good and evil because that duality was not something one saw on Naked City.
No. Everything back then was very reverential to cops.
Black and white,
Marty,
yeah.
Marty guys?
Marty guys.
Army guys. Like, anything in authority was still reverential. There was very few, like, conspiracy or anti-government or anti-establishment stuff going on.
Right. The first draft of the screenplay was written by Alexander Jacobs, who had penned Point Blank in 1967, starring Lee Marvin, directed by John Borman.
Yeah.
This was dismissed by William Friedkin and Philip D'Antoni. They literally just did away with his first draft entirely.
No thanks.
The second draft was by Robert E. Thompson, who had been Oscar nominated for They Shoot Horses, Don't They? In 1969, starring Jane Fonda and directed by Sidney Pollack.
We need to do that movie because we talk about it so much.
We do. I randomly watched that movie because I thought the title was so odd.
Yeah.
And then was even more weirded out by the fact that it was about a dance competition.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it doesn't make any
sense. It's a great movie, though.
It is, but
it's a really
so weird.
Great movie. Yet again, though, the Robert E. Thompson draft did not meet with the approval of the film's producer or director. Bear in mind that Friedkin detested the source material of the novel, calling it thick-headed and refusing to read it.
Okay. What? And why are you doing this?
He wanted to do... He knew how he was going to shoot it. He didn't give a shit what the story was.
Well, okay. But still, it's like the Witcher people,
I know.
Why do you hire people that hate the source material?
Yeah.
When fans are so passionate. Well, I'm sure there weren't a bunch of passionate French Connection novel fans that were like, it's not like the novel.
Then D'Antoni came across the galleys to a novel called Shaft by a writer called Ernest Tidyman.
Shut your mouth.
That they both liked, so they hired Tidyman to write a new screenplay. D'Antoni and Friedkin had major input in the finished screenplay. Tidyman was the son of a crime reporter for the Plains Dealer in Cleveland. Tidyman would write 7 Shaft novels along with the screenplay for the first film.
Nice.
Due to the success of the films Shaft and The French Connection, Tidyman became a hot ticket in Hollywood.
Yeah.
He wasn't happy with how Shaft ended up, so he created his own production company. He wrote the screenplay for the Shaft sequel in 1972, as well as the screenplay for High Plains Drifter in 73, directed and starring Clint Eastwood.
Great movie.
Fantastic movie. In 1979, he co-wrote A Force of One of Chuck Norris's early films.
Yeah, it's one of my films. It was one of the films that wasn't really following what Sylvester Stallone did. It was kind of my own thing for the first time.
It was, did he have some input? Did you have some input, on the title?
No, I just had input on kicks and punches.
Well, you are a force of one.
I'm a fourth of one.
In 1980,
beware of my beard. It might punch you in the face.
In 1980, he would write the teleplay and produce Guyana Tragedy, the story of Jim Jones, which earned him an Emmy nomination.
I write for money.
Tidyman said in a 1980 interview, he got up at 6 a.m. and wrote for 12 hours a day.
Damn.
Apparently, he was also drinking heavily during those 12 hours a day.
Yeah, well, most of them were.
He'd be married 5 times, and in 1984, his alcoholism would get the better of him, finally killing him at the age of 56.
Damn, that is serious alcoholism.
That is some serious drinking.
Because we know, like, a lot of these old Brits, these old, the super alcoholics.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They live to be like 70s and 80s.
Some in their 90s even.
Yeah.
Like, and man, for your body to shut down from alcoholism at 56, 12 hours a day.
Well, I think, too, like, if you're an actor alcoholic, you're still moving around and doing
That's
stuff.
true.
And
That is true.
Times that you have to do stuff and people are feeding you and you have to kind of be
people
somewhat,
are feeding you. It's like, please, Mr. Shaw, just eat the burger. Eat the burger.
Give me more gin.
I put some whiskey in it. Just eat the burger.
But as a writer, you're just sitting there.
You're very sedentary.
I used to drink and write. And,
bad news.
You don't realize how drunk you are until you stand up.
He was probably smoking too at the time. So
I used to do, yeah. That was the thing.
Drinking, smoking, and writing.
That is the writing cliche, man.
It is.
You got to drink and you got to smoke cigs. And I thought it worked. I mean, I wrote like 80% of the stuff I've written is drinking and smoking.
So they cast Gene Hackman as Detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle.
Gene Hackman.
Popeye was the real nickname of Detective Eddie Egan due to his eyes always bugging out and how he would flex after chasing down a suspect.
And he would go, hey,
He also
I
has
am what I am.
Eddie Egan also has a ginormous head.
Yes, it is a giant head.
It is shocking how big his head is.
It's like an Easter Island head.
Half of the New York police force budget went to buying him hats.
Yes, and things to keep his neck from collapsing from the weight of that head.
A number of people were considered for Popeye Doyle. Friedkin considered Paul Newman and Steve McQueen, but with the small budget, they were out of the movie's price range.
Both great, but no.
Neither of them have enough of the everyman that I think Gene
Exactly.
Hackman has.
They're both too pretty. Well, I think more so McQueen could have done it because he's still kind of weird looking and very...
Yeah, he could have.
And Newman could have nailed it acting-wise because the guy's one of the greatest actors ever.
Of course.
But his looks are distracting sometimes.
Yeah. Those eyes, man. You'd be staring at his eyes the whole time.
Goodness.
Friedkin then pushed back on the realism aspect of the film and wanted to cast Jimmy Breslin, a New York reporter, to play the part.
Jimmy Breslin, man. Jimmy Breslin was one of the main reporters on the, David Berkowitz.
Oh, yeah.
He was the crime beat reporter in New York, right?
Yeah. And he was in that documentary.
Yeah. He's a huge celebrity.
Yeah.
He was one of the first real celebrity journalists.
Big deal. Yeah.
But what a bad idea. Because the guy is he is larger than life, but...
He's not an actor.
No, man.
They went through a few weeks of rehearsal until Friedkin realized that Breslin couldn't act and had never learned to drive.
I don't know how to drive. And I'm not going to act.
He literally, essentially was like, I'm not learning to drive. He told him flat out he's not learning to drive.
He's a New Yorker.
And
he was in his 50s by then.
There's a car chase scene.
Not going to be me.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't him. Friedkin then turned to Jackie Gleason.
Would have been great. Jackie Gleason's a very underrated dramatic actor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Gleason was willing to do the film, and he was my idea, the character. But Zanuck said no. I wanted Gleason because the real cop was a heavyset Irish guy. And Gleason's fat.
And Gleason's fat. All right, what does Friedkin have against fat guys? I don't
know.
But I agree. Jackie Gleason would have been great.
He's just got that, talk about the anger.
Yeah.
Gleason's got that temper that can pop. You saw it on The Honeymooners in the comedic way, but
in the Toy, wasn't that him in the Toy?
Mm-hmm. Oof. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, but
That's what he said.
Right. But he was, we were definitely like that one look from him, and it's like,
U.S.
U.S.
U.S. U.S.
But I agree. He definitely, he could stare people down, and he could do,
Well, he was just an incredible actor.
He was
the
great.
guy was, a very troubled man, but also just ridiculously underrated when it came to drama. Even that crappy Tom Hanks movie where he played his dying dad, he was really good.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, Fox was still reeling from the Jackie Gleason box office bomb Gigot in 1962.
Yeah, this is a passion project.
Gigot? Or
I think it's Gigot.
Okay.
Or Gigot.
Gigot. They then considered James Caan, Charles Bronson, Peter Boyle, Lee Marvin, Robert Mitchum.
Peter Boyle, out of every one of those persons.
All those persons?
Peter Boyle, out of all of those actors,
Yeah.
I think he would be on par with Hackman. He would be perfect for the part because he's played parts like that before.
Yeah.
And he's just got that everyman anger, gravitas. Like Peter Boyle, everybody's
totally.
young Frankenstein. But it's like,
No, but he's, 100%.
Peter Boyle was a force to be reckoned with.
Unfortunately, they all turned down the part. Boyle's decision to not make the film was a reaction to his work in Joe in 1970.
This is crazy.
Boyle's character was a bigoted man who went on a violent crime spree, but to Boyle's horror, audiences began cheering on his brutal activities rather than being repulsed by and opposed to them.
People, man. There's always going to be a percentage of people in this country that are just effing a-holes, man.
Oh yeah. He feared a similar reception if he played Popeye Doyle and thus decided to forego the part.
Well, it's also because he's such a likable dude.
Yeah.
There's guys that have that gene that make them such effective villains because you can't help but be drawn to them.
Yeah. Lee Marvin turned it down because he didn't like cops, despite playing a fair number of them throughout his career.
I love Lee Marvin so much.
He's just
I don't like cops.
Mitchum turned down the role because he hated the story.
Well, I honestly, Mitchum and Marvin were too old.
Yeah, I don't think they would have worked anyway.
And there needed to be, I don't know how else to say it, but there needed to be the fluidity, I guess, that Hackman brought to the part.
Yeah.
Of movement, and the way he played the part was like jazz almost.
Yeah.
It was just the and I don't think they had the nuance to do it that way. It would have been old school hard cop.
Just a lot of punching. And
a lot of
I'm a force and I'm coming. Yeah.
Right.
And it's not, there need to be more subtlety, and Hackman was so good at that.
Well, he just played a cop of the time so well.
Yeah.
I mean, because he was playing a real dude.
Yeah.
In front of the real dude.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure.
That's true. Real dude who was not a fan of him.
Nope.
Friedkin then turned to Rod Taylor. Taylor wanted to play the part, and Fox wanted him for it, but Friedkin wanted someone more unknown to fit in with the cinema verite aspect of the film.
Irony. Nobody remembers who Rod Taylor is today.
I want to say I've seen him in some stuff.
I'm sure you have.
I don't know.
I couldn't pick him out of the lineup.
Nope, not at all. Hackman met with Friedkin and sat down for an interview. Hackman didn't do any screen test, read for the part, or even audition. When Hackman left, he assumed they'd passed on him for the role. I can imagine they sat down and just talked for a while.
Yeah, he's just like, this guy's perfect.
Yeah. Up to this point, Hackman had been in a ton of movies, but never as a lead. He had been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for his part in Bonnie and Clyde in 1968.
Such a great movie. Such a great part.
So good. And again, he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor in I Never Sang for My Father in 1971.
And he didn't.
He did not, because his father died.
He used to hum for his father.
He would hum. He played the pan flute for his father.
Yes, he did. Just like Zamfir.
Hackman nearly accepted the role of Mike Brady for the TV series The Brady Bunch.
I know. I've known that. That is such a
really?
weird
I did
thing.
not know that.
Yeah.
It would have been a very different show.
It really wouldn't have.
We would have been deprived of a lot of good Gene Hackman.
Oh my God, we would have. But I could totally see Gene Hackman playing the part of.
Yes.
I mean, he's so likable.
I mean, Gene Hackman can play anything. So
But to see Gene Hackman in such a vanilla role, it would have been so weird.
It would have been weird. His agent advised that he decline it in exchange for a more promising role, which he did. Friedkin almost went with Taylor, but opted for Hackman at the last minute.
Good.
Eddie Egan, the cop Popeye was based on, was against Hackman's casting, as Hackman wasn't from New York.
He's not from New York. He doesn't have that New York sensibility. Plus, he's too skinny.
Yeah.
He's not racist enough to play me.
That I believe. Hackman was born in California, but moved around frequently as a child, finally settling in Danville, Illinois.
It's like basically New York.
Yeah.
It's the New York of Illinois.
Yeah, Danville, you know. Yeah, from Danville.
Danville.
From the lower south side of Danville.
You better watch out.
Hackman had a hard time saying Doyle's racist language without cringing. Friedkin admitted that the blatant racism was directly inspired by the real Doyle, retired officer Eddie Egan, but he also called Egan
a great cop, and a lot of this was an act. A lot of what Egan did was bravado in order to seize control and make sure that all these suspects, most of them dealers and often users of heavy drugs, would do what he told them to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, I mean, but Hackman gets it. Like, he gets...
And agree with it.
Admits it. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I mean...
It was... You can see what policing was like. The bar scene in French Connection, that's what policing was like. It was harassing people.
Yeah.
Throwing them up against the wall, taking their drugs, but also also not arresting all of them.
No,
just basically effing with them,
seizing stuff from them, and then
humiliating them, and then making the it wasn't.
We'll be back in an hour.
Yeah, it was a game.
Yeah.
Back then, because there's nothing you could really do. Even Egan playing the police captain was saying, "You're just busting, guys for 5 joints in their socks. It's just pointless. You're not getting the big dealers. This is just dumb." And it's true. It's like going after these low-level guys.
Yeah. What's it going to do?
It doesn't take the drugs off the streets.
No.
It just, it's
You're just keeping some people from having a good time.
Well, thanks, Adam. You're absolutely right about that. But you're also, just delaying the inevitable because these guys are going to get out in a day.
And then they'll get more drugs. I mean,
Right.
they're the buyers. They're not the sellers.
Exactly.
Like, it's not,
You got to go after the source.
You got to start at the top.
A French Connection.
Work your way down.
Yeah.
The opening scene in which Popeye Doyle dressed as Santa Claus tackles a drug dealer had to be filmed 27 times.
That's the thing. I was watching this movie. Gene Hackman runs so much in this movie.
So much.
And Roy Scheider as well.
Yeah.
But it's just, if 27 times, man.
That's crazy. I don't know why it took that many times.
Well, it sounds like it didn't, but Friedkin was using it as a tool to upset Gene Hackman.
Well, yeah. Hackman was so pissed at having to do it so many times that he threatened to walk off the film.
I hate working with directors like that.
Yeah.
And I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not dumb. I mean, I'm dumb, but I'm not dumb. And I can see through.
Right.
I'm
ruse.
usually smarter than these guys.
Yeah.
And I can see through your little ruse of trying to make me upset. So I'm more pissed at you trying to play a stupid game on me instead of just giving me direction and trusting me as an actor to use the tools in the toolkit.
Now we're going to do a mirror exercise,
Oh,
Jim.
God, please. Oh, Meisner. Knees to knees.
Knees to knees.
Oh, God. Oh.
You got to look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes.
Never. That bothers me. But he got what he wanted, and I get it, but it's like, it's just such a waste of everybody's time.
I know.
And it just means that you can't communicate. If you can't get what you want through traditional means, then come on, man.
That's on you. That's not on
it's
the
not
actor.
on Hackman, just because Hackman didn't like being a racist. He did it.
Yeah.
He was so remarkable in this movie.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is he's not angry in a lot of this movie.
No.
I don't see him as an angry character.
No,
I see him as frustrated, and he gets pissed when things go wrong. But he's mostly got a gleam in his eye, and he loves what he does.
Yeah.
And he loves the chase.
Yeah. I definitely got the feeling that he loved being a detective in New York.
That's all he... It's almost like Rollerball, where his entire personality... is this job. You look at his apartment, it's just a scummy place. He just picks up women. He's just a gross, awful man, but he's a great cop. And I think that is what's so brilliant about this. We didn't see very much of this before this.
Right.
A guy who's so flawed and so unlikable, but because it's Gene Hackman, with an inherent likability, you're going to root for him, even though he's a piece of ass.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So the only thing that kept him from walking off the set was threat of legal action. This is most likely a tactic by Friedkin, as Jim was saying, as Hackman had a hard time getting into the grouchy character of Popeye Doyle. Friedkin employed various tactics in provoking Hackman into anger from the more gritty scenes during filming. One technique was to show dissatisfaction with Hackman by repeatedly sighing heavily and shaking his head after a take, even when Hackman had delivered a great performance.
Oh, that was awful.
Well, the trick almost worked too well, as Hackman got so angry that he reportedly nearly quit on the second day of filming.
Well, I would too, man.
I would too. Yeah.
I would too. I'm like, we're in this together, man. We're making this as a team, and you are playing stupid tricks on me.
Not to mention the fact that they all know we have very little money.
Yeah.
They all know we have very little time.
Yep.
don't play games. Let's get this movie done.
Trust your actor. This is the egoism of certain directors that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Because he'll do whatever. Like, same thing with Kubrick. Kubrick is a genius, but working for him must have been a nightmare.
I would never be able to work with him.
And same thing with Hitchcock. You know, he just saw actors as chattel.
Yeah.
Pieces
It's like
objects to be moved around
props,
the space.
yeah.
Yes, props.
It's like David Mamet. That was the best when David Mamet was directing. I can't remember who it was. It might have been that movie, The Spanish Prisoner with Steve Martin. But somebody was like, one of the actors was like, well, what's my motivation? And he was like, do you see this square? Anything that happens outside the square, I don't care. You walk in, and then you are in that square, and you act, and then you walk out.
Right. You say the dialogue exactly the way it's written. You say it exactly the way I tell you to, and then that's what you do, and then you go home.
And it's like,
But I get Mamet.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Mamet, it's his words, and there's a definite there's a definite rhythm. Mamet is like jazz.
Yeah.
I use that way too. I use
like
that euphemism way too much. Like jazz. But literally, it is like jazz because there's such a rhythmic quality to his dialogue, and especially the way that it bounces off of the two guys or three guys or however many guys are talking.
Yeah.
There's a certain rhythm and a certain beat that goes with it that if you don't hit it, it doesn't work.
The Coen brothers are the same way.
Yeah.
That was the big famous story from Fargo with the guy who plays the Swedish dude, like was reading the script and he just kept correcting the and they were like, what, is something wrong? Is something wrong with the dialogue? Why aren't you saying it the way it's on the, because the script was like, the like all those ums and stuff. It was all in the script.
Nice.
And he was correcting it and he was like, well, I thought it was a mistake. And they're like, no, read it the way it is on the page.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, they cast Fernando Rey as Alain Frog One Charnier.
He was so great.
He was so great in this. The casting of Fernando Rey resulted from mistaken identity.
Really?
Yeah. Friedkin had seen Louis Buñuel's 1967 French film Belle de Jour and had been impressed by the performance of Francisco Rabal.
Have you seen that movie?
Who had a small role in the film. No, I have not.
It's really good.
Belle de Jour?
Yeah.
I like Buñuel quite a bit, so I don't know why I haven't seen it yet.
It's the belle of the day.
Oh, okay.
A woman of the day, right?
Woman of the day? Yeah. However, Friedkin did not know his name of Francisco Rabal, only remembered that he was a Spanish actor. He asked his casting director to find the actor, and the casting director instead contacted Rey, a Spanish actor who had appeared in several other films directed by Louis Buñuel.
It's so weird that he got a Spanish guy to play a
French dude?
French guy.
I know. I think he just really liked that actor, Rabal.
Oh, he was so good.
After Rabal was finally reached, they discovered he spoke neither French nor English, and Rey was kept in the film.
Nice.
So there you go. But Fernando Rey was so good in this movie.
Oh, the whole, it's almost 80% of this movie, there's no dialogue.
Yeah.
None.
It's so just
there's so much just
wandering and
surveillance.
And yeah.
And it's so just the surveillance scenes are brilliant. Because you finally see like real surveillance. There's usually like a 3-man team.
Yeah.
So you can go on and off and, you know, you don't trigger the guy. But the surveillance scene with Hackman and
Frog One,
as they call them.
Yes.
Frog 1, Frog 2.
Because he's French.
Right, yes.
They had to.
Of course. Everything had to be a stereotype. But that scene is so amazing because you watch, you know that Elaine knows that he's being followed.
Oh,
he doesn't give it off. And Hackman is so clumsy.
He's too eager.
Way too eager. Exactly. Yeah. Perfect, Adam, which makes him clumsy.
Yeah.
And there's this great scene on the subway where they just keep getting on and off and on and off.
So great.
And he gets the slip. Gives the slip to Popeye and his little wave.
He does his little wave.
Goodbye, bye. It was just so brilliant. And he's just ruthless and so well played by this actor.
Oh, he's so good. Rey has appeared in more than 150 films. After screening the film's final cut, Rey's French was deemed unacceptable by the filmmakers. They decided to dub his French while preserving his English dialogue.
Okay.
The debonair Rey was described by French Connection producer Philip D'Antoni as
the last of the continental guys.
I had to look that up because I wasn't really sure what a continental guy was. It just kind of means that you're very European and very worldly.
Well,
I
it
guess.
also means that you dress really nicely.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
got a really cool
Like kind of
cigarette
a
case and a good
high-
lighter. And,
Yeah, like you're very aware of your presentation.
Yes, you know which wines to have with which
Right,
meats, and you know
right.
which cognacs to have after dinner, and you know which cigars are the best. You
Very old school.
Yes.
Yeah. He achieved his greatest fame after he turned 50.
Perhaps it is a pity that my success came so late in life. Might have been better to have been successful while young, like El Cordobes in the bull ring. Then your life is all before you to enjoy it.
He was 54 when he performed in the French Connection.
Nice. Oh my God, really?
Yeah. He
Wow.
he was 54.
54 was a lot older looking than it is now.
I thought he was in his 70s.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, we were talking about this yesterday too.
Yeah.
Like from 20 on, guys look like they're in their 40s
Oh, yeah.
and 50s.
But Gene Hackman, he was 40 for like 40 years.
Same with Roy Scheider.
Both of them.
Yeah.
It just was a thing back then.
It's hard living,
Everyone
baby.
just looked adult all the time.
Because they were adults. They had to go through wars and stuff.
Unfortunately, Ray would pass from bladder cancer in 1994 at the age of 76.
Ah.
Yeah. He was really great in this movie, though.
Oh, he was amazing.
And he did appear in the sequel, so hey. We'll talk about that later. Roy Scheider was cast as Detective Buddy Cloudy Russo.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
It's really funny. So Scheider's character was also based on a real detective, Sonny Grosso.
Yeah.
His nickname was Cloudy because he was a grumpy Gus that did not resemble his name, Sonny.
Right.
So when they changed the name from Sonny Grosso to Buddy Russo, the nickname makes no sense now.
No, he's nobody's buddy.
It's like, what? Yeah.
The chemistry between he and Hackman is
So good, man.
amazing. I mean,
The scene where he comes into his apartment, so brilliant.
well, it's also kind of the first buddy cop,
Yeah.
pairing where it's instead of like things before that were Dragnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great cops, and the partners are
Yeah,
partners.
yeah.
Hey, Joe, what are you gonna do? I don't know, Mick. Let's go get the guy. Let's have a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
Joe.
or like the cop story and whatever. And it was always just they were in the office and they were out solving crimes. They're in the office out solving crimes.
Yeah, but these guys, from the beginning of that chase, when they go after the guy and the guy slices Roy Scheider,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they just kick the S out of this guy because he did that.
Yeah.
You can see the bond between them.
Oh, yeah,
And it's just one of those like thrust together, very different
Right,
guys, it
right,
seems. Because
right.
Roy Scheider seems a lot less high strung
Yes.
and impulsive. He seems a lot more level headed and like, let's kind of let the case play out.
Rather than running and shooting.
Yes. Like Popeye Doyle is insane. But it works. They work so well together. And there's these long surveillance scenes, like stakeout scenes.
Yeah.
That really give you a sense of the boredom and what it's like to be on a stakeout.
Yeah.
Before it was all exciting and the guys
Right.
would be sitting there eating sandwiches and then 2 minutes later they'd be like, oh, the chase, let's go.
Yeah.
But this is just guys for days sitting on the
Oh,
car
yeah.
or whatever, and one guy's sleeping, and the other guy's like 4 a.m, and let's
Yeah.
get the hell out of here. And it was just done in a way. It didn't glorify or glamorize police work the
No.
way that all these other
Yeah.
programs and movies did. It really showed just how tedious
Right.
most police work is.
Yeah, that iconic 2-shot of the guys in the car, and then they toss their coffees out the window while they chase the guy
Yes.
down. Like, that's not how it really works.
No, you got plenty of time to drink your coffee.
Yeah. That's the funny thing is that they implied in the movie at the end when they were staking out the car after it had been parked that it took about a day. Like it was overnight that day.
Yeah.
In real life, that actually took 3 days.
Really?
They sat in that building and watched that car, or not in the building, they sat in their cars and watched that car for 3 days.
Stink City. Lots of farts.
Ugh. Can't imagine. Anyway. So Scheider started boxing at the age of 14 to lose weight.
See, that's another reason why all these guys look weird, because they all boxed.
Yeah, that's true.
They all did like super manly crap when they were young. None of this coddling, tick-tocking.
No, none of this TikToking.
You're going to box.
All these kids, they're TikToking.
And you know what? We're not going to use gloves.
No, we're going to bare knuckle it. Here we go. His trainer encouraged him to compete despite Scheider having no desire to fight.
I love him.
It's because it's like, no, I'm just doing it because it's good for me.
Yeah, I just want to get in shape. Quit pushing me.
Yeah. In his second fight, he suffered a broken nose and lost by TKO.
Yeah, you can still see that broken nose
Yeah.
today. Well, not
Not
today.
today. But in the movies.
In the movies, yes.
Despite this, he would go on to have an 11-1 record before stopping boxing when he graduated high school.
Pretty impressive.
That is very impressive.
All before graduating high school.
Could have gone on to be much more successful in boxing.
Too smart. I mean, not to say that boxers aren't smart.
No, but he had other things he wanted to do.
He had other opportunities.
Yeah. He made his acting debut in The Curse of the Living Corpse in 1964.
Nice.
I've never seen that. Kind of want to watch it.
Yeah.
He would make numerous television appearances in soap operas and TV movies. He actually won an Obie Award for his part in Stephen D., a play by James Joyce, performing 68 times off-Broadway.
Nice.
In 1971, as well as appearing in The French Connection, he appeared in Alan J. Pakula's Clute with Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland.
Another movie we have to do because we talk about it every single time.
It comes up a lot.
Yes.
It comes up a lot. The French Connection is what made him a star.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's such an amazing performance, and he's talk about a likable guy.
Oh, God.
And
yes.
we were talking about this. One of his greatest gifts as an actor is how he makes the other actors likable.
Yes.
We were talking about this yesterday. He made Richard Dreyfuss likable in Jaws.
In Jaws, he was not a likable character.
Well, he's not but I love Richard Dreyfuss, but Richard Dreyfuss is usually playing a nudge or somebody that's annoying.
A little annoying, yeah.
And he's playing that in Jaws, but he softens him because of the way their friendship, you know what I mean? It's the same thing with Popeye Doyle. The friendship that they have with Roy Scheider makes them more likable characters, if that makes sense. And I don't know any other actor that really does that in such a remarkable way.
He comes off as being so non-judgmental and accepting of just whoever it is he's talking to.
So earnest.
It's like you're just like, oh, well, if he likes the guy, then
give us a
I
kiss,
probably
darling.
like the guy.
Yeah. And he's just got this fun way of talking. And
he's so good.
And he's just got this dry sense of humor that is just unparalleled. He is such an underrated actor.
Yeah.
One of the best that we had. And every time I saw him, and he was another one of these guys when as a kid that I had the talent crush on. And anytime he was on anything, I would watch it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And a lot of really great movies. The 7-Ups, The French Connection, Jaws, the 2010 even.
Yeah.
That was, it was not a great movie, but he was really good in it.
His audition for the French Connection did not go well. He actually stormed out of the audition, convinced he had lost the part.
It seems like a pattern here.
Friedkin was actually impressed with his anger, and that was the reason he got cast.
Friedkin likes angry men.
It's weird.
I like making men mad.
His first leading role was in The 7-Ups, where he played Sonny Grosso, again, a quasi-sequel to The French Connection.
Yeah.
Which really it's not at all. It's just happened to have the same character.
Yeah.
Or same real person, quote-unquote. His role in Jaws in 1975 cemented his popularity. Twice he almost worked with Michael Cimino. Perfect Strangers was a romantic thriller that was shelved due to political machinations at Universal. Cimino offered him the part that Robert De Niro would play in The Deer Hunter, and Scheider accepted before having to drop out 2 weeks before filming began.
I wonder why.
I don't know. I couldn't find any info.
Look, De Niro is insanely good in that.
Oh, yes.
But he would have been just as equally good.
Yeah. Scheider would have been fantastic. Universal had him in a 3-picture deal that started with Jaws, and they told him if he would do Jaws 2, they would consider the contract fulfilled.
All right, I'll do it.
So he did. Yeah.
Fine.
In his later career, he would turn to TV, starring in the Steven Spielberg-produced Sequest DSV in 1993.
Remember that show?
Yeah. During the second season, Scheider voiced disdain for the direction in which the series was heading.
I don't like it.
His comments were highly publicized, and the media criticized him for panning his own show.
Show sucks.
NBC made additional casting and writing changes in the third season, and Scheider decided to leave the show.
I'm leaving.
His contract, however, required that he make several guest appearances that season.
Fine, I'll show up once or twice.
He's such an easygoing guy. Scheider guest starred in the Law & Order Criminal Intent episode Endgame.
Oh, baby. 100% you should watch this. I know you're not a Law & Order fan.
I'm not.
But Criminal Intent was a very cool series. It had Vincent D'Onofrio, and I forget the name of the actress, but she's really great too. Vincent D'Onofrio was so good. It didn't last very long, like 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
But him coming on, because D'Onofrio's character is one of the greatest characters on TV, just very complicated, so weird.
Yeah.
And you know that he was like, I'll only do it if I get to play it really weird.
I don't think he can play anything but weird.
But you see Roy Scheider playing his dad, the serial killer.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It was so good. It is worth watching just those episodes just to see his performance.
All right. In 2004, Scheider was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a cancer affecting white blood cells. In June 2005, he received a bone marrow transplant to treat the cancer. Unfortunately, he died on February 10th, 2008 in Little Rock, Arkansas, at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences Hospital. His last part was playing himself on Family Guy, along with his Jaws co-star Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes, we did a little thing for the Family Guy.
Yeah. It's too bad, man. I mean, he did. I don't know how old he was when he passed.
It doesn't matter. He was just a treasure.
He's just
one of those guys that was solid in everything he did.
Yeah.
He was low key. You really didn't know much about him. You just knew he was a great actor. He just put his head down, did great work, didn't get in your face. He was just one of those old school, awesome artists.
Fantastic. Yeah. I didn't include this in the script due to time, but I do want to point out, I don't know some of their names, but the supporting cast was great. Like the guy who tried to snipe him, the Frog 2.
Oh, yeah.
Was great. He was great in the movie. And the lady that plays Sal Boca's wife.
Oh, yeah.
She was really great. And
Tony Lobianco.
Hey, Sal Boca.
I'm Tony Lobianco. You may know me from such movies as The French Connection.
Every time he's on screen, his face just screams, I'm Tony Lobianco.
What are you doing? I'm Tony Lobianco.
But he was great. I mean, he was great in this.
Tony Lobianco, whose name is so much fun to say. Try it at home.
Yeah.
Say, Tony Lobianco. It just rolls off your thing like a party. But he was one of those guys.
Like a party.
He was one of those guys that, unfortunately for the time, was like too Italian to be a leading man. And one of those great journeyman character actors. That just showed up in everything. Like when we were talking, I'm like, oh, he was in The Godfather. He was in Goodfellas. He wasn't in any of those.
If he wasn't, he should have been.
Exactly.
Because he had a face for it.
And there was somebody that looked and sounded exactly like him that was in it. But it's just that guy again. And again, not a lot of dialogue.
No.
But such an important part. And he really played it well. I mean, because he's the middleman between the French and the mob.
Right.
And he's trying to put together this deal that is a great deal.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, for everybody. But the mob's dragging their feet because they're the mob. And, you know, the Frenchies are getting impatient because it's taking too long.
Right.
And so he's losing his ass.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great layered performance. Just like all of the performances in this movie, there is so much more. There's no stereotypes. There's no... Look, even in the bar... You got these guys that are the drug dealers or whatever, but they have nuance to them, to their characters, especially the guy that is either I don't know if he was an undercover guy or if he was an informant.
It feels like he was undercover.
Yeah.
Because it was great. He came out and he's just like, hey, what's up, man? What's up, baby?
What you doing, baby?
And he's just like, what? And then he gets him into the bathroom and it's like, oh, hey,
he just
what's
starts
up, Paul?
peeing. He's like, yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, you know anything about this? No, I don't know anything about that.
No, keep it near the ground.
We'll have dinner. Say hello to Margaret for me.
He was great, too. He was fantastic.
Everybody was great in this. I can't think of anybody that dropped the ball.
Everyone felt so real.
Yes.
So real.
And that goes along with the cinema verite style, the documentary style of shooting. It just and things got to play out.
Yes.
The budgetary restrictions or whatever was going on, they really were able to just let these scenes simmer.
Yeah.
But not in a way that dragged the film down. It just made you feel like you were watching something that maybe you shouldn't be watching.
Yeah. It was like watching a documentary unfold.
Yeah. And it was
like, where is this going to go?
Totally felt like we were on a stakeout with these guys.
Yeah,
we felt like we were part of the task force.
Right.
And we were I would get so frustrated too with Gene Hackman. The way when Gene Hackman got frustrated, I got frustrated.
Yeah,
he did such a great job of just sucking the audience into this peril.
Yeah. So to save money on the budget, Friedkin shot everything on location. It was filmed on 86 separate locations throughout New York City. Because the movie is based on an actual case and had heavy involvement from the detectives involved in the case, the picture had a lot of help from the NYPD. Roy Scheider and Gene Hackman patrolled with Eddie Egan and Sonny Grosso for a month to get the feel of the characters.
That probably wasn't a lot of fun.
No. Hackman became disgusted at the sights he saw during the patrol. In one incident, he had to help restrain a suspect in the squad car and later worried that he would be sued for impersonating a policeman.
Yeah, it's like, I'm an actor. What do you got me doing over here?
Eddie Egan didn't care. He was like, just hold him down. What are you doing? Because they didn't always have permits, William Friedkin had the cameraman carted around a wheelchair instead of using a camera mounted on dolly tracks for the moving shots.
Nice.
This is most noticeable when Gene Hackman runs to then enters the subway car. As the camera follows Hackman hurrying towards the car, the film movement is smooth, but then shakes noticeably as the cameraman has to get up from the wheelchair and follow Hackman into the subway car.
I totally noticed that because
did.
of the script.
You did.
And I pointed it out to you.
You did. It was great. Cameras and equipment would often freeze during shooting due to the frigid temperatures during the winter shooting in New York City and Brooklyn.
Yep. Winter is not a friend of the film camera.
No, it is not. It averaged 5 degrees during shooting.
Ugh.
A whole 5 degrees.
Well, it's like, what's worse? Shooting in 5 degrees or 105 degrees of 100% humidity?
The latter, definitely.
Really?
I would rather shoot in cold weather.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That would
I
be
would-
the former, wouldn't it?
You said which was worse.
Right.
The latter would be worse.
Right.
Shooting in the heat and humidity would be worse.
Yes.
The former would be great. I would totally be down for that.
Just put on a jacket.
Yeah. And plus, he's running around. He was running so much. It didn't matter.
But those shots, too, that scene where he's, again, like 40% of this movie is tailing guys.
Yeah.
And when Hackman's tailing the Frog 1 and Frog 2,
Yeah.
and they go to lunch, and it juxtapose of them having this elegant 5-course meal
Yeah.
with wine and cognac and desserts. And Hackman's out there freezing he's rubbing his hands together, stomping his feet, freezing to death, eating a gross piece of pizza and cold coffee.
Nickel coffee.
Yeah. and it was just such
he
a
just
great...
drank 3 sips of them, dumped out because it was
Exactly.
just disgusting.
Just showed...
And then they got their cappuccino.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was such a great...
It's such a great movie. It was so cold. I didn't include this in the script, but during shooting, when they were in between takes, the crew would hide out in like storefronts.
Oh, wow.
Because they were like, it's too cold,
yeah.
and go wander in. Yeah. The scene where Weinstock's chemist tests the heroin's purity uses actual heroin and not flour or cornstarch or some other commonly used substitute.
How'd they get that?
They didn't have permits. I don't know. How did anybody get any heroin? Well, they were working with cops.
Popeye Doyle, can you go into the...
I'm sure.
go into the evidence room.
Eddie Egan was like, "Yeah, I can get you some heroin."
You guys need heroin?
Yeah.
I can get you heroin. The teeth on that heroin tester was disgusting.
That guy was so gross.
So gross. Black,
gross.
literally black rotting teeth.
He did. Yeah. That was that was the great. Yeah, you can keep that one for yourself. And he grabs the giant thing, the small one. Okay. The film features one of the greatest car chase sequences in movie history.
Oh, man.
The chase involves Popeye commandeering a civilian's car, a 1971 Pontiac Le Mans, and then frantically chasing an elevated train on which a hitman is trying to escape. The scene was filmed in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, roughly running under the BMT West End line, which runs on an elevated track above Stillwell Avenue, 86th Street, and New Utrecht Avenue in Brooklyn, with the chase ending just north of the 62nd Street station. Go visit all of them right now. It's where they shot it. Yeah. At that point, the train hits a train stop, but is going too fast to stop in time and collides with the train ahead of it, which has just left the station.
Now, the reason why this car chase was so incredible, because it was super unsafe, and it wasn't really that planned out, and there were accidents that were real accidents.
Yeah, the car chase was filmed without obtaining the proper permits from the city. Friedkin went for approval to the New York Transit Authority. He laid out exactly what he needed, and the TA employee, some sources say it was the conductor, responded that,
To approve this, I'll need $40,000 and a one-way ticket to Jamaica.
when asked why one way, he replied,
Because, Mr. Friedkin, when your picture comes out, I'm going to get fired.
So the producers and Friedkin complied with the man's request.
Nice.
The scene ended up becoming one of the most notoriously dangerous ever filmed, after which the TA employee was promptly fired for negligence.
Well, he had $40,000, and he wasn't making $40,000 a year.
His current whereabouts are unknown, so he made the right choice.
Oh, I'm in Jamaica. You know what? Jamaican me crazy. Jamaica.
Members of the NYPD's tactical force helped control traffic, but most of the control was achieved by the assistant directors with the help of off-duty NYPD officers.
Oh, that one shot when he almost hits the baby carriage.
Yeah.
That is just, it's so frightening. The whole thing is so frightening.
It comes up, you get a close-up of the baby, and then they do the reverse side, and he hits that garbage so fast.
Oh man, and it's just that just it's just so harrowing. The whole thing is just it's anxiety inducing.
Yeah. Many of the NYPD officers who helped were involved in the actual case. The assistant directors, under the supervision of Terrence A. Donnelly, cleared traffic for approximately 5 blocks in each direction.
Wow.
Permission was given to literally control the traffic signals on those streets where they ran the chase car.
That's crazy, and that's such a busy part of New York.
Yeah. Even so, in many instances, they illegally continued the chase into sections with no traffic control. They actually had to evade real traffic and pedestrians.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, just glad no one got killed.
Yeah, it's...
Hackman did some of the driving, as was very apparent. They had way more of Hackman driving than I realized, because I thought it was a lot of like far shots.
Yeah.
But it was not. There was a lot of obvious Hackman driving.
Shot from behind.
Yeah, well, there was stuff of his face.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that was mostly in the controlled areas.
Sure, of course. The extremely dangerous stunts were performed by Bill Hickman, who played the FBI agent Mulderig, with Friedkin filming from the back seat. Hickman was an experienced stuntman and driver.
Also, really good at playing an a-hole.
Oh, my God. So good at playing
And it's so effed up what happened at the end to
I
him.
I know. Well, I'll get to that. It's funny, because that did not actually happen in real life.
Well, good. Because you would have heard about that.
Yeah. Friedkin operated the camera himself because the other camera operators were married with children, and he was not.
Nice.
Yeah. The most famous...
Well, you got to do that. You have to lead by example.
Oh,
on
no,
that type of thing.
totally. That was the right choice. It was like, all right, man, in case we get in an accident, your kids still have
I'm
a father.
responsible. Yeah.
The most famous shot of the chase is made from the front bumper mount and shows a low-angle point of view of the shot of the streets racing. Director of photography Owen Roisman had the camera undercranked to 18 frames per second to enhance the sense of speed. This effect can be seen on a car at a red light whose exhaust pipe is pumping smoke at an accelerated rate.
Yeah, I saw that. It's not super distracting, though.
No, I didn't. To me, honestly, it seemed fine.
What's funny is I read your script before we watched the movie, so I was looking for all of these things that you had pointed out, and it was fun to see them.
Nice.
So if you're all going to watch the movie, look for these things that Adam talks about, because they're fun to look out for.
Other shots involve stunt drivers who were supposed to barely miss hitting the speeding car, but due to errors in timing, accidental collisions occurred and were left in the final film.
Yeah, that car was effed up by the time he stopped. That poor guy, too.
God.
When am I going to get my car back?
Yeah, I know.
Never.
I was like, he didn't even, I would have like yelled at him, call the cops, or whatever.
This whole, and that's not a thing, too, by the way. Cops
You
can't commandeer your car.
Too many people think that's a thing.
It's not. If any cop tries to commandeer your car, just say no.
And not to mention the fact that at the end, he gets out and he shoots him, and then Doyle was so messed up that he just lays down. It's like,
the adrenaline from that.
I'm so hurt and tired now.
He was so spent from the adrenaline
Such
of doing that.
a real reaction.
Exactly. It's just because that's what's so beautiful about it. A, he shoots the guy in the back, which is totally effed up.
Yeah.
And B, he just, he didn't have time to, don't turn your back on me, or whatever his stupid catchphrase would be in the movie today,
Yeah.
And he would just be fine to grab a girl and kiss her or something.
Right.
If it was, the Hollywood movie.
Friedkin said that he used Santana's cover of Peter Green's song Black Magic Woman during editing to help shape the chase sequence, though the song does not appear in the film. So it makes sense. I mean, he cut to the song.
Well, it's always great to cut to music.
Yeah. The scene concludes with Doyle confronting Nicoli, the hitman, at the stairs leading to the subway and shooting him as he tries to run back up them. Its climax captured as a still shot in the theatrical release movie poster for the film. The great, which I don't remember. I guess they did show him. Anyway, the shot in the back. The blood they used was just so thick and red.
No, it's total Peckinpah blood.
For everything.
It's the 70s kind of Peckinpah blood, which is very thick and very red. It's almost like a pasta sauce.
Yeah, it's so...
They just blooch.
It's just, yeah. Many of the police officers acting as advisors for the film objected to the scene on the grounds that shooting a suspect in the back was simply murder, not self-defense, but director Friedkin stood by it, stating that he was...
secure in my conviction that that's exactly what Eddie Egan would have done, and Eddie was on the set while all of this was being shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would have shot him in the back.
Essentially, Eddie Egan was a murderer.
I would have shot him in the back. Yeah.
Cops on set also objected to the accidental shooting of the FBI agent depicted in the movie.
Oh, that was brutal.
Oh my God, he shot him like 6 times.
And didn't give an F. Just
He was
reloaded
just
his gun. Is like, I'm going to go after him. And Roy Scheider is just aghast. Aghast.
Yeah, like you just killed an FBI agent.
Just murdered an FBI agent. Do you want to take a breath?
No.
No,
I gotta catch
He's
this
in
guy.
here. He's in here. I know he's in here.
However, Eddie Egan agreed to it because he hated the FBI agent that the character was based on.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Having participated in the making of the movie, Detective Eddie Egan decided to retire from the NYPD and start a career in Hollywood.
I'm starting to think Eddie Egan wasn't a very likable guy.
The NYPD, however, brought charges against him for minor errors in reporting and handling of evidence.
Okay, sounds a little petty.
And the NYPD to being petty. And
There's a lot of corruption, too, back then.
I know. In Egan's trial, director William Friedkin testified on his behalf, and Roy Scheider was also present. Egan was dismissed from the police force just hours before his retirement, and his pension was taken away.
That's petty. That's some Trump-level crap, like he did to Comey or whoever they did that to.
Well, the decision was later appealed in court and was reversed.
Good, because that's just effed up.
That's just messed. Literally hours away from retiring.
And it was Andrew McCabe that they did it to.
Oh, yeah. The location of the bar where Doyle makes the milkshake is now a Popeye's chicken fast food restaurant founded by Arthur Copeland, who named the chain after Popeye Doyle.
Yeah, the milkshake was uppers and downers, bennies and weed and coke and heroin.
Yeah.
Might have been good.
I had no idea that Popeye's chicken was named after the character in this movie.
I didn't either.
I had no idea.
I didn't.
The movie was the first to film the World Trade Center, as it was under construction during filming.
No.
Don Ellis composed the score for the film. It was the first film score. Only 22 minutes of the score were used during the entirety of the film.
Which is good, because the film score is unpleasant. It's not like a soundtrack that you would listen to ever.
No, not one that maybe as an alarm in the morning, so I get up and turn it off.
If you're going to murder somebody or do something, it's just maniacal. It's a maniacal soundtrack.
The movie would go on to make over $75 million in worldwide box office. It was the third highest grossing movie of the year. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 4 out of 4 stars and ranked it as one of the best films of 1971.
Nice.
Yeah. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune awarded a full 4 stars out of 4 and raved.
From the moment a street corner Santa Claus chases a drug pusher through the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn to the final shootout on deserted Ward's Island, The French Connection is a gutty, flat-out thriller far superior to any caper film of recent vintage.
Still so in love with his words.
Yes, but
he's right.
Agreed.
Yes, he's right. Pauline Kael of New Yorker was generally negative, writing,
"It's not what I want. Not because it fails, it doesn't fail, but because of what it is. It is, I think, what we once feared mass entertainment might become. Jolts for jocks. There's nothing in the movie that you enjoy thinking about afterward. Nothing especially clever, except the timing of the subway door and the umbrella sequence. Every other effect of the movie, even the climactic car versus runaway elevated train chase, is achieved by noise, speed, and brutality."
So she got the movie, she just didn't like it.
the movie, no.
Yeah.
It scared her, Adam. It scared her.
God forbid that things be real. These things actually happen.
It elicited a response from her.
It did.
It might not have been the one that she wanted, but it was effective.
The Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa cited The French Connection as one of his favorite films.
Of course, because the guy's a genius.
Director David Fincher cited The French Connection as one of the 5 films that
had a profound impact on my life
and served as an important influence on the cinematography of his film Seven.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because Seven was definitely not cinema verite.
No, but there were definitely like some of the shootout,
yeah.
Like when he gets hit with the bar and stuff. Like some of that, I could definitely feel The French Connection.
Well, it was kind of a spiritual successor in a way, because it did have the gritty cop realism.
Yeah,
there wasn't any sort of romanticizing of either the police officers or the job or the case. It had that definite French Connection realism to it.
It felt cinema verite without being cinema verite.
Right, but also very stylized.
Yes.
I want to watch that movie again.
Oh my God, I love that movie so much.
Yeah, I've seen it like 1,000 times.
So messed up, but it's so brilliant. The movie would be nominated for 8 Academy Awards.
Yeah.
It would win 5 of them. It would win Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Gene Hackman, Best Screenplay based on material from another medium for Ernest Tidyman, and Best Film Editing.
Nice. Well, it definitely deserved Best Editing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
If you're a film editor or if you're any sort of editor and you haven't seen this movie, do yourself a favor.
Yes.
It is brilliant. There's nothing like it.
Has a rhythm and breathes. You can feel it as it goes. Yeah,
it 100%. You're exactly right. It has a rhythm and a life unto its own. And it drives and moves, and it is cut so well. It's so effective.
It was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Roy Scheider, who unfortunately lost to Ben Johnson for The Last Picture Show.
He was great in The Last Picture Show.
Best Cinematography for Owen Roizman, losing to Fiddler on the Roof.
Ridiculous. Like, Fiddler on the Roof is a great movie, fine. But that cinematography, they almost died making that. It was so innovative. It was like nothing that anybody had seen in an American film before.
Yeah.
It definitely should have won. Those crusty old Academy members are dummies.
It also was nominated for Best Sound, losing again to Fiddler on the Roof.
If I was a rich man,
I've literally never seen Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, I have.
The film will be nominated for 25 other awards. The 7-Ups was a quasi-sequel to the film directed by Philip D'Antoni, starring Roy Scheider.
It's a fun little thriller, but it's nowhere near as...
I've never seen it. I'm curious to see it now, because I loved Roy Scheider, and Philip D'Antoni, I don't know if he's a good director or not, but...
Makes you want to drink 7-Ups.
Yeah. A sequel was made in 1975, The French Connection 2. It ignores the implication that Popeye Doyle killed Charnier at the end of the first film, which is kind of up for debate. I mean...
But it's not, because at the end of the movie, they say he got away.
That's true. I mean, there are words. So then what was... He ran into the room and saw he got away, so he just shot the gun in the air?
Probably.
I mean,
But it's, if they wouldn't have had the text crawl at the end...
Yeah, then it...
Which
I agree.
I think is telling the real story of what happened.
Yes.
As opposed to
Yeah.
the movie.
I
But
agree.
still, it implies that that's what happened in the movie,
Yeah.
and then he got away. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much debate to that.
No, I agree. In the sequel, Doyle travels to Marseille, France, where he is attempting to track down French drug dealer Alan Charnier, played by Fernando Rey again, who escaped at the end of the first film.
Yeah, it's like Rocky 2, because he lost in the first one and he gets to win in the second.
Hackman and Rey are the only returning cast members, but the film did not capture the same magic that the first film did.
No, it's lightning in a bottle. You can't do what you did.
I've never seen The French Connection 2, but I read the plot for it, and apparently there's some really, really rough scenes where they force him to be addicted to heroin, and then withdrawal scenes that I was like, where did this movie go?
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. I know I saw it, but
he definitely very much kills him at the end.
Well,
It is 100% definite that he kills him at the end.
he puts a tank of oxygen in his mouth and says, "Smile, you son of a..." And
Yeah. There was also a TV movie sequel made in 1986, Popeye Doyle, starring Ed O'Neill.
it's good. It's not great, but it's fun to see Ed O'Neill playing Popeye Doyle. He was good at that
Yeah,
part.
I'd imagine he would be.
Ed O'Neill is another one of those amazing actors who's super underrated because everybody just sees him as Al Bundy.
I know.
It was just such a tragedy because he is such an amazing actor.
He's a fantastic
I mean, he was
actor.
amazing as Al Bundy, but Al Bundy
yeah.
is I never really liked that show.
It wasn't a stretch. Like
It
it was
was stupid. It was such a dumb show.
It was just a dumb show.
I want to go back and see if there's any nostalgia or anything good to it, but it just was so mean and dumb.
It was weird.
Hey, Big, I'm going to talk about how I want to not have sex with you, Big. I'm a shoe guy.
It's really funny because we're watching. Well, Phoebe's watching for the first time, but Modern Family, and it's amazing how every time I'm like, "Oh, this season I really like his relationship with Manny," or like I really like his relationship with one of the kids. Like he's just so good.
He deserved every Emmy.
Oh,
It's one of the greatest sitcom performances ever. It's such a layered. His arc from the beginning of that series to the end of that series is so good, and it deals with the old school boomer. It deals with the old school boomer.
Yeah.
With the gay son in such a realistic way where it doesn't let him off the hook. I mean, he has homophobia, and they play it for laughs, but not in a degrading way.
Yeah.
It's a very human way and a very real way, and the way he comes around, to the fact that he ends up giving his son away at the wedding at the end. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And any other actor, it would have been difficult to still like him during that journey.
Right.
But because Ed O'Neill is just such an incredible actor and so
good,
genuinely likable,
and
he plays mad and grumpy so well.
He's
so good.
He does.
So good.
He's so good. So the 1986 TV movie sequel was originally intended as a pilot episode for a series called Popeye Doyle, but the series was not picked up.
Yeah.
It portrays the investigation of the case of a murdered model, which leads Popeye Doyle on the trail of a gang of terrorists and a drug cartel of international smugglers.
Of course it does.
Yeah. The French Connection has been issued in a number of home video formats. On September 25th, 2001, the film was released on VHS and DVD, with both formats being released in a box set featuring both the film and its sequel. For a 2009 reissue on Blu-ray, William Friedkin controversially altered the film's color timing to give it a colder look.
Uh-oh.
Cinematographer Owen Roisman, who was not consulted about the changes, dismissed the new transfer as
atrocious.
On March 18th, 2012, just 3 years later, a new Blu-ray transfer of the movie was released. This time, the color timing was supervised by both Friedkin and Roisman, and the desaturated, sometimes over-grainy look of the 2009 edition had been corrected.
Good.
Yeah. In June 2023, media publications discovered that a version of the film available on digital platforms such as Apple TV and the Criterion Channel had been altered to excise a scene in the film that contains usage of racial slurs.
I am so surprised that the Criterion Channel would do something like that because it is a film preservation.
I have films of theirs on DVD and Blu-ray where it has things at the beginning saying this was a product of its time.
Exactly.
Accept it and watch the movie for what it was.
It is really important not to sanitize these films. It is really important not to take this stuff out because this film is a reflection of society of its time.
Yeah.
And so much like we were talking about 70s sci-fi and how it really reflected the changing times and the changing attitudes, and it really explored all of the social consciousness of the time.
Yeah.
You need this stuff in there. I know it's uncomfortable, and it may not be politically correct now, but we don't go changing art, you know?
No.
It'd be like, it's like, oh, let's cover up the wieners on these paintings because they make me uncomfortable.
Well, there are plenty of people that want to do that.
I know.
The nice thing is the backlash to this has been 99% of the people have been like, what are you doing? Like, we understand that it's not appropriate right now, but let us be adults and understand that.
It's the same thing of sanitizing Mark Twain or sanitizing any of these, anything, books, music. It is a reflection of its time. And some of the language is uncomfortable, but we can deal with it.
Understand the context. Understand what it was.
And these guys aren't PC dudes.
No.
They're cops. They're for all intents and purposes, they're kind of crooked cops.
Yeah.
But not in terms of taking bribes to look the other way.
Right.
They bend the rules to get the bad guys.
Right.
Which, it is not right either. I mean, you gotta you gotta keep it on the straight and narrow. Film, television, literature, it's the mirror that we put up to society.
Yeah.
And it is the record of history that most people subscribe to.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are reading history books and exposés on the Civil War and such.
Right.
They're watching movies or TV or listening to music or reading,
really interesting because this is all going to circle back around when we get to Mississippi Burning at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of this very similar critiques and stuff of that movie.
But if you take out the brutality and the inhumanity, then you're doing a disservice to the people that were victimized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody's going to look at the French Connection and be like, wow, Popeye Doyle was a great cop.
No.
They're going to be like, Popeye Doyle was an obsessed man who was a dog with a bone and would do anything to get his man. And a lot of what he did was illegal, immoral.
Yeah.
And in today's society, all the convictions would be overturned because of the way he got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, none of this would stand today. No. Well, that's all I got. It's a great movie. Highly recommend it. Find it. Watch it.
It really is. And if you're not familiar with Gene Hackman, then how dare you? This is a great introduction into he as a artist. And definitely see Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Definitely see his earlier stuff.
Loose Cannons.
Definitely see Loose Cannons and listen to our show.
Yeah.
He was great in Loose Cannons. The guy never gives a bad performance.
No, exactly.
Maybe in some bad movies, but he's never given a bad performance. And again, he's another character actor that was made a leading man.
Yeah.
And some of his best work is the supporting roles.
Yeah.
Whether it's Mr. Luthor
from,
from Superman or Unforgiven or Bonnie and Clyde.
The Birdcage.
Or the Birdcage.
He's so good in the Birdcage.
Yeah. Look, it's a brilliant... he is one of our treasures. And he's still alive.
Yeah.
90-something years old. Still riding his bike and doing his thing.
Working in his garden.
I miss him. I miss his presence. He's one of those actors that there's never going to be another Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
There's never anybody he's like Harrison Ford or John Wayne, even if you hate him. But he's iconic. He's a one of a kind. He's not the best looking guy.
No,
he's not the most in shape guy. I just love the shot of him, chubby body with handcuffed to the thing when he was just a perv and a gross guy. But he plays anything. He even because in the Birdcage he was pretty unlikable at the beginning. But even horrible characters, like there was it's not a great movie, but there's a Clint Eastwood movie called Absolute Power.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where he plays the president, I believe, who murders a woman.
Yeah,
and
Clint Eastwood.
He's a thief.
It's a thief.
He's a thief who watches. He's breaking in to and in a secret room watches the murder happen.
Oh,
and it's it's not the best Clint Eastwood movie ever, but it's definitely worth a watch because those two together are magic. And him as a bad guy, I really loved watching Gene Hackman play bad guys because they were always so interesting.
Yeah.
Little Bill, wasn't that who he was in Unforgiven?
Oh, I don't know his name.
It was something Bill, but the whole thing of him trying to build his house and he was horrible at it. And he was building this crap house. It was just, you're not going to find anybody like him. And if you ever just watching TV or flipping through Pluto TV or whatever, and you see a Gene Hackman movie come on, just stop.
Yeah, just watch it.
Yeah, you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. We'll be back next week. All 3 movies this month are amazing.
Yeah,
but I love the conversation.
The conversation is it's one of Coppola's best films. It is such a perfect. It's just a perfect exploration of paranoia.
Yeah.
And what it's like to be somebody who's so good at surveillance that you lose your mind because you think you're being surveilled. We're going to talk about it.
It's going to be so great.
Such a great movie. So watch yourself a little bit of French Connection.
French Connection.
Because it's an awesome movie. And I think, you know what? I would say an interesting double feature would be French Connection and Seven.
Yeah.
It'd be a heavy night.
It would be a lot.
Get yourself something to drink some whiskey and bourbon while you're watching those two. But get yourself a double feature of those. You'll love it. We'll be back next week. Police procedural.
Yeah.
A police procedural, right? Good Lord. Like El Cordobas. What?
It was a bullfighter.
Like El Cordobas?
Cordobas.
Like El Cordobas in the building.
In the bullring.
Oh, sorry. God damn, I need my glasses. Like El Cordobas. Jesus Christ. Like El. Thanks. Now we have blooper. Like El Cordobas. Cordobas. Like El Cordobas in the bull ring. Then your life is all before. God damn. Life is all before you to enjoy it. Okay, thank you. Like El Cordobas in the bill.
In the bill ring.
Motherfucker. Like El Cordobas. Cordobas? Like El Cordobas in the bull ring. Then your life is all before you to enjoy it. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Remington Steele, already in progress.